John Keim, ESPN Commanders reporter. Check out the John Keim report. You can give him a follow at John_Keim, Keim. John, how are you, man? Fun weekend of football.
Oh, my God. Phenomenal. It's to the point where, like, my wife, after we were watching the game last night, she's like, you seem, like, annoyed by this game. I'm like, yeah, because every other game was great at the end. Like, this was
right.
that last game was like, it's kind of a big letdown. It's like, let's have another one. Like, it's an adrenaline, man, a drug.
Maybe we get one tonight. You never know.
We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully.
Before we get to the Commanders stuff, let's run through some of the games this weekend. Do you think the Bears won that game, or did the Pack choke it away?
All right, so here's a full disclosure. So I was like, I had a lot of work to do, so I'm watching the game, and kind of closed my eyes, and it was 27-16, and they opened again, and the Packers are down by 3 at the 30-yard line. So I don't know what happened. I had to rewind it a little bit to go see. I would say this. The Bears have done this all year, so I'm going to give them credit. Like, I think it's probably a little bit of both, because the Packers just did not do a whole lot in the second half, for sure, but the Bears keep doing this all year. And just like we saw last year with this team, when there's a pattern of that, I'm going to give them credit.
I agree with that.
I think they got a little conservative, though, down the stretch.
Okay, well, that's
offensively, definitely for the Packers. And their defense didn't, down the stretch, they had opportunities, and they capitalized off of none of them. Yeah,
and that's all fair. And I think, listen, that's also a game where, like, okay, you kind of miss Micah Parsons.
Yeah, for
Big
sure.
time.
But you're right, like, the Bears deserve credit for constantly coming back. They've done it all year.
Yeah.
Caleb did not look great in the first half, and then he's able to get it done in the second.
Seen that a lot.
For sure. What did you think of the Panthers, giving the Rams everything they could handle?
Rams haven't been playing well.
Right.
So that was a surprise, too, because, like, it's 17-7. They're driving. Or not driving. They get the turnover. And, like, all right, this game's going to be over. Like, I hope the next game is going to be a lot better. And then it's like, oh, my God, you stop them there. I think the other thing is, too, like, and I like the aggressiveness on fourth downs, but there are times where, like, maybe the smart play here would have just been to take the 3 and go up, almost 2 touchdowns, right? So I think there's, like, this. I think the Chargers got caught up in that, too. And I understand it. Like, you have a chance, you can pin them, et cetera, if you don't get it. But that when they held them there, and then the Panthers went down and scored, like, they're back in it. And sometimes you also look at, like, there was nothing expected from that Panthers team. And when you play a certain way, like, sometimes you just get overlooked, whether in season or in games. And I think there's a reason why even though they're 8-9, they were still a lot better than what I think people anticipated this year. And there's typically a reason for it. You know what I mean? But I would also say the Rams have not been playing great down the stretch, and I think we saw some of that too as well.
For sure. The Rams have some issues, and you start looking at next week's games. Rams-Bears will be really, really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
How about Josh Allen late in that game for the Bills, just being able to kind of take over?
That throw was incredible.
Yeah.
Against that blitz. Like, but you know what? Like, he had to come through in that situation. He had, you know what I mean? Just for all the talk, when you start talking legacies and doing things, et cetera, if you're that guy, you come through. And he did. So a lot of credit. And, that was it was such a great weekend, man.
It was. The last
Yeah.
one to ask about is Philly going down. Defending Super Bowl champ, losing at home. Kyle Shanahan, masterclass. And that Eagles offense is just a mess.
It is. And, here's the other thing, like, how you guys should have simulcast WIP radio this morning.
Oh, my God.
They lose their lid if I remember one time they were 8-0, these guys went up and beat them, and I'm driving back the next morning because it was a Monday night game, and you're listening to the radio, I'm like, oh, my God, you think they were 1-8. So today would be incredible. But, again, like, they hadn't played well offensively all year. And so, I think the other thing is, again, when you look at a team, San Francisco, with all the injuries they've had, to do what they've done is absolutely incredible. Mm-hmm. And, last year they had a lot of injuries and won 6 games. This year, a lot of injuries, and look where they're at. And you lose Kittle in that game, but immediately, like, they were aggressive. with their play calls, and then that touchdown was the winning touchdown to the Jawan pass.
Yeah.
Was incredible. Like a great play call, great setup, et cetera. But that's Kyle, but they stayed aggressive, and it's somehow they get it done, and it's kind of amazing that they're where they're at.
John, you've covered a lot of teams, and you've seen players that can be very volatile, and you've seen coaches that can be volatile.
Yeah.
But when the coach and the player on the same side of the ball both are volatile, have you ever seen that? And I know Gary Clark was a volatile dude, but Joe Gibbs was always calm.
Gibbs is not.
Yeah. But when you look at Sirianni and A.J. Brown, how hard do you think that is to overcome?
I think it probably is very hard because I think that filters down to other areas, don't you?
Yeah.
Like you would, yeah. So I think I know what Sirianni says, but then when A.J. Brown leaves without talking, that. I mean, that sounds like from everything you hear or read that obviously has been an issue bubbling below the surface and sometimes above the surface all season,
Yes.
probably for longer than that. So it's hard to imagine that this is going to be headed in a positive spot for Brown and the Eagles. It just doesn't seem like it's working anymore. But Sirianni's also the kind of guy. The dude won a Super Bowl last year, right? And I think that organization seems to thrive on chaos.
Yeah.
And I think Sirianni's personality, it can be really good when you're winning, and it can be probably kind of annoying when you're not.
And if you listen to the radio today, I bet you they don't like him. They liked him last year. They loved him. I guarantee they hate him today.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Because it's just But again, the guy they won. Like it's hard to win, and I think there are times where that team is when it would be counted out, they'd start to come through. But last year they started to play well down the stretch. This year, you still saw some issues, and so that was that. I didn't think they were going to be able to make a run this year.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think it's only a matter of time till Howie goes and gets a real OC in there.
They're trying every year or something else.
Right.
So, at some point, maybe it's not the OC.
Right, that's a good point. Talking with our friend John Keim here on the Rude Guest Hotline. Rude makes the most reliable heating and air conditioning products in the DMV. All right, Johnny, let's talk about the Commanders. So they hired David Blough over the weekend. I think I saw you, the Twitter experts were yelling at you when you said, when McDaniel got fired and became available, you said it's still Blough, then probably McDaniel.
Right.
And people told you were incorrect. You were proven correct because everybody's an expert on social media.
I'm guessing they didn't talk to the same people I do, but that's
probably not.
Oh, they think they do. Believe me.
Brian and I have arrived at kind of the same conclusion. I like the Blough hire. It gives Jaden continuity. It is rolling the dice, yes, on an unknown, but he is widely regarded as a super hot, up-and-coming offensive mind. And, if it goes bad for DQ, he's probably out anyway.
Yeah.
So why not try with your guy internally? What'd you make of the decision and kind of how they arrived at it?
Yeah, and first of all, I understand why people would want McDaniel. I think there's a difference between thinking, one thing and saying, this is the guy I want. McDaniel would have been a great choice. The hard part always was he's interviewing for head coaching jobs.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee he's even available. And then it's what other OC jobs might be available? What if Detroit was there? But the problem was, too, I say that, but the Lions had deep interest in David Blough. So if you wait for McDaniel for, let's say, a week and a half to see what he does, and then you lose Blough, and then McDaniel gets hired, what happens? Then where do you go? So that was always a big part of it. But as far as Blough goes, the continuity, the rapport with Jaden Daniels, I think, is important. I always felt like they built a good infrastructure around him, so that's good. And I agree with you. Quinn is with. This is a big year for a lot of people in that franchise.
Yeah, dude.
So if you're going this way, you don't do it kind of willy-nilly, right? It's not just, it's not, you're doing it because you believe this is the guy that can help you in a year that is very pivotal for you. So I don't think you can discount that. And what the hard part is, how long does it take for him to become a good play caller? We don't know. There's a lot of unknowns with it because it's difficult, but he is, like you said, he's very highly thought of throughout the league. He's worked under a number of different coaches. I think there are elements of the coaches he's worked under that will appeal to what Quinn and Adam Peters would want from their offense.
John, I look at something else like the backup quarterback, and this is me watching guys in the NFL and things of that nature. That backup quarterback is as involved with around the head coach when it comes down to play calling, or the offensive coordinator when they call and plays, as much as anything. Even in practice, they do it. And you had to run it sometimes. Running a 2-minute offense may not be calling a game, but hell, you got to still run a 2-minute offense, and you're calling most of those plays. And a lot of times there are coaches who've allowed guys to do it. Listen, Sean McVay, and I know Sean McVay is like a damn savant, okay? But he wasn't an offensive coordinator very long before he became a head coach.
No.
It was like a year, Yeah. So he went from quality control with some tight ends, being an offensive coordinator to a head coach. It could happen like that for certain people. And I just hope that Blough is that guy.
Yeah, and I think the question is, like, what prepares you better for this role? Blough did it by playing under different systems with different coaches and playing in the league. Now, he wasn't, like you said, he's not playing. He's not starting. He played, I think it was 9 games, 7 starts. So there wasn't a deep playing experience. But you're in the room. You're practicing. You're with all these guys. And I think he always had his vision on being a coach. And when guys are like that, they're taking a lot of notes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember talking to Colt McCoy a few years ago when he went to the Giants. And after here, it's like, I remember talking to him. He's like, part of the reason why he wanted to go to New York was he had not played in that offensive system. Is like, if I want to be a coach, I want to experience more of these systems. So you can formulate what is it that you really want to incorporate. And for Blough, again, he's wanted to be a coach. So that he's had his eye on this, and you're always going to be formulating what is it that you want to do. And I do think, in talking to some people, my guess would be that a lot of the elements we'll see will be like some of the Ben Johnson, Kevin O'Connell stuff.
Yeah.
That's a strong guess, right? But we don't know until it happens. But I do, so it's, would you rather prepare by coaching the tight ends and all that, being in those coaching rooms, or playing and getting all that experience and then elevating here? Which is, I don't know, which we'll find out, right? But I also know that it took McVay a year to really kind of get his footing as a play caller. So that will be the thing that's hard to know. I think knowing the offense, installing the offense, I don't know that would initially because of that. But yeah, I mean, the guy, like, he's played for some really good coaches, and clearly it's not like they just plucked This is not Jim Zorn taking over as a head coach.
Right.
But as a former quarterback, and I know all quarterbacks feel like I can call plays too. How much of that will he put on Jaden? Because a lot of these coaches who have not played at this level, they don't want to give that guy the play calling duties. Like, a lot of quarterbacks call plays, checking the line all the time. There are some systems they don't allow all that. I don't know what they worried about, but yeah. I saw Peyton Manning was allowed to do it. His damn offensive coordinator kept getting raises. So would Blough and Jaden sit there and say, let's come up with this thing and let's see how good this can be, and give him put a lot of onus on Jaden, because from what I hear, he studies as much as any damn coach out there.
Yeah, and I think that would be asking a lot for someone going into a third year and coming off the year he had with not as much action. But I don't doubt for a second that it's going to be something like, okay, what are you comfortable with? Like, that's the thing that would be customary. I think, I don't know how much, if you're Blough, I don't think you can give that kind of freedom initially, just because you've got to get to where you're comfortable with what you're doing first. You know what I mean? And then, and make sure that Jaden is up to speed on what you want to do. And then I think that's something that would evolve over time. And I think it also could be, like Cliff would listen to Jaden. There was the the one play against the Browns 2 years ago where Jaden runs, there's a play on I can't remember what down it was late in the half. They ran a play, Diami gets open, but the throw doesn't go there, and then the next play, Jaden scrambles, runs out of bounds, runs past Cliff and said, call that play again. And the next play, and Cliff immediately calls it, and then Jaden throws a touchdown pass to Diami Brown, 41 yards. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of thing, could I see that? Yeah, but you're going to, I think you'd want to make sure, get him up to speed in the offense, whatever it is, and then evolve over time to maybe having them in certain situations call more. I don't know.
It's interesting. So I kind of tried to, over the weekend, do a deeper dive into Blough's background. And obviously he was in Arizona for a year with Cliff. Colt McCoy was on that roster too. Yeah. So he's in the room with Colt. Yep. You go back to the Detroit rosters. Ben Johnson's tight ends coach. Yep. Anthony Lynn was the OC. And I think we will see how much more change is coming for the coaching staff. But I think if they're able to keep Anthony Lynn and Brian Johnson, for all the experience questions, right? Blough hasn't done this. Right. It's going to be 3rd and 3 late in the fourth quarter, and you're down 4, and you got to know the right call. But you've got Lynn, who's been a head coach, been an OC, probably still going to have be the run game coordinator. You've got Brian Johnson, who's called plays, been around a lot of great quarterback development. There is structure in place with experience, even if Blough doesn't directly have that experience.
Oh, I think that's paramount, right? Whether or not those guys stay, if they stay, you're right, that absolutely helps. If they don't, you better get people in there who have done this, because you're going to need somebody who, and it has to be somebody, you would want it to be somebody who's not trying to rise up themselves and maybe work against it. Somebody who's just, who's comfortable with where they're at, et cetera, and is willing to be that kind of voice or a sounding board for someone who's just starting out with it. And I think David Ryder, tight ends coach, is also, he hasn't been in that role, but he's a little bit more. Is who's going to be the O-line coach. As you know,
I forgot about that.
That's typically, when you talk to
person
other coaches,
really involved, right?
Yeah, that's also one of their outside of the coordinators, that might be the next biggest hire is the O-line coach. So that will be a very big one as well and helpful. But yeah, you need to get the experience around him for that reason. I couldn't agree more.
Were you surprised by Bobby's departure, O-line coach, Bobby Johnson?
A little bit, yeah, because the line did a good job.
Right.
But it does sound like that he got on their radar after Cliff was hired. So, I think, I don't know if that was, I hate to say collateral damage, but that may have been part of what that was, but they did a good job up front.
Yeah, I think you could make a pretty easy argument that the offensive line was probably
anybody on the team.
Yeah, the best.
The line was the most consistent unit all year for sure. Yeah, no, so yeah, and that was, so that's what I said. If you're going to do that, make that move, you better hire somebody who's pretty good. And I know it was a Darnell Stapleton there, but they have. I don't know what they're going to do there, but you better get a good one in there because they did do a good job, and that was a pretty, very, very tight knit group. And I think some of that is who you had, and I think some of that is who you're led by, right? Mm-hmm. And I think he was good for Josh Connolly. I think Laramie Tunsil was good for Josh Connolly. So yeah, you need to hit that one out of the park.
Oh yeah.
Now the other big move they got to make is figure out the defensive coordinator. They obviously moved fast and went internal at OC. I don't think they'll do the same at DC. No. Do you have a favorite for that job? Is there somebody you think would make the most sense?
I think obviously Raheem Morris is going to be on there. I think the next guy who has been a really good coordinator as well is Jeff Ulbrich, because he had a lot of success in that role in New York, and he's worked with Quinn, so they have apparently a good working relationship, and not just working with somebody shouldn't get you the job. You better be good. It can't just be about familiarity. We've seen that before in other in other regimes, and it hasn't worked. But I do think when you know that you can work with a guy and you know what their philosophy is and that it meshes with yours, that matters. So I think those two would be the two to watch, and I think that's why this search will take longer, because there's questions about Raheem, like he's interviewing for head coaching jobs, et cetera. And so then and with Ulbrich, like he's still under contract with Atlanta. So if they hire an offensive head coach, they might want to keep him. Yeah. So then he may not even be free. So then you have guys like Patrick Graham, who's obviously called plays. And I do think they want somebody who has called plays. That, I don't know if that's 100% hard and fast desire, but I think it is the desire, right? Get him, Joe Witt was a first-time play caller. So I think they'd like to have some experience, and the guys that they've looked at do have at least, I think even like Joe Cullen from KC was a coordinator for 1 year. Patrick Graham has that. Bernard Wilson clearly has that too. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that would be – but I think